Damian is everywhere. Everybody knows Damian. He doesn't really need an introduction, but I'm gonna humor all of us and introduce him. So he's the past global president of ICF, as Courtney said. He's been a member of ICF LA for many years. He is an MCC. He's trained and coached in over 40 countries. He's written 3 books. The 3rd one will be out next week. You can get it if you speak Spanish. On mentor coaching. Are you speaking Spanish tonight or English?
English with an accent.
English with an accent. So hopefully that'll be translated in English.
I'll translate the English edition.
Yeah. And one thing that I learned about him tonight is that his whole family is coaches. His parents, his brothers. He comes from a long line of coaches. So there's no one better I can think of to speak about trends in coaching than Damian Goldvarg.
Can you hear me well? Yes. Hey, it's great being here.
Yeah.
I have here many of my colleagues, some friends, some graduates from my coaching trainings at USC at the Center for Nonprofit Management. It's really great being able to share with you some of the trends that I have observed in the coaching world in the last few years. So I want to share, when I was planning the session for today, I was thinking where I would look for sources of information for you. So what I did is, I did some research. I'm going to share with you some research results. I talked to people at ICF Global Headquarters. I talked to the executive director, with some colleagues that work there to ask them about what they have been hearing. I want to share my experience. I have, for the last 6 years, I was a member of the Global Board of Directors. So not only being the president for 2 years, but being in the Global Board for 6 years, helping to shape coaching at the global level. And then I have been working with my clients all over the world for 20 years, more than 40 countries. And I have heard and seen many trends lately that I want to share with you. Now, what are the key trends that I'm going to be sharing tonight? I want to talk about internal and external coaching, what's happening in companies and organizations. And the future of coaching is more related to coaching in organizations. We talk about executive coaching, and when we hear executive coaching, we think we're talking about coaching high-level executives. But executive coaching is really what we call all coaching that happens in organizations to managers, mid-level, supervisors. I think that coaching in organizations is really the trend more than live one-on-one coaching. Coaching in teams and group coaching is another trend. And what is happening also in terms of training managers in organizations as coaches. So I'm going to share with you, I had a chance to train managers on coaching skills in more than 20 countries. And I'm going to share with you some of the key elements that I train, that I use, so you may want to pay attention to some of these ideas, some of these items in the agenda. Now, it's interesting to talk about trends, but it's even more interesting if we can apply them to our lives. Because we don't want to just hear information. What I am interested in today is to invite you to consider how you can use these trends in your own life and in your work. So if you thought you were coming here just to listen and learn about trends, this is not my plan. My plan is that we have an opportunity to reflect on what's going on in the world, how coaching is affecting the world, and what is happening also in your life and in your work, and how you can put these things together. Are you willing to do this?
Yes.
Are you willing to do some work?
Yes.
Okay, great, because this is what we're going to be doing. I had the chance to go to the website of ICF, and unfortunately, many ICF members are not aware of all of the resources that you have as members. How many of you have used and take advantage of the ICF research portal with all of the information that there is about research? Not too many hands. There is tons of information, tons of resources. One key resource that you can use for your work as a coach is all of the information and all of the research studies that ICF has compiled over the years. But particularly, ICF have done research projects every year bringing new light to different topics. If you go to the Coach Federation or our website and you go to About, that's one of the challenges is finding things in the website. You know? that I can relate. I have been working on that for years and we're still struggling. But it's in About. And in about, you go to research, and in the ICF research, you have all of the research studies. I want to share with you only a couple. I don't know how many of you heard about this research study, ICF coaching in organizations. Anybody have seen that study? Okay, this study talks a lot about internal and external coaches. So if you're interested in the topic, I highly recommend that you go and spend time going through this report. You can get the basic report. If you want to get the full report, you may have to buy it. Key element on internal coaching is growing very fast. 10 years ago, nobody talked about internal coaching. When we're talking about internal coaching, we are talking about companies hiring coaches to work internally to provide coaching to their employees. Do we have anybody here who's an internal coach? An internal coach here today? We have 2, 3. Used to be?
Yeah.
We have 3 or 4. Great, you're here. So what research says is around 10% of all of the coaches are internal coaches. But this number is growing. And how many of you have heard about Sherpa? Sherpa is an organization and research study that they have done. I want to share a little bit about them. They just came up last week with a new piece of research about coaching organization and executive coaching. And they found in 5 years the increase of internal coaches that fill out the forms and the research and participate in the research increased 60%. So that's a trend. And what is interesting is that many coaches hate marketing. Anybody here that don't like marketing and building your business and all of that stuff? Well, many of us are great to coach, but not great at selling ourselves. And that's a global problem. And that's the reason why last year I came and I talked about that. I don't know how many of you were here last year when I came and talked about how to build a practice. Because if we're great coaches, but we are not great about building a business and marketing our services, nobody will find us. And that's a challenge that coaches have all over the world. As ICF president, I have the opportunity to travel and to meet coaches all over the world. Between ICF and my own practice, let's say that I travel around 20 different countries in the 6 years, and I talked to 40 different countries virtually. A lot of coaches all over the world have the same challenge. How do we build a business? We can be great about working with people, supporting people to be effective, but us selling ourselves, it can be complicated and difficult. So that's one of the challenges that we have as a profession. Not only coaches, psychologists, social workers, people who work serving, providing services. So this is one of the challenges. So internal coaching offers that opportunity for people who don't want to build a business, or not entrepreneurs. Effective coaches who want to have a business in coaches need to be entrepreneurs, need to know how to build a practice. So people who are not interested, internal coaching may be a possibility. The most coaches are using internally, more opportunities are for coaches. The other study is about building a coaching culture. Anybody have seen that last year came up? Building a coaching culture? That's a great study. What they did is the ICF interview around, I think, 200 companies, and then they split them based on which were the companies that invested in coaching. And companies invested in coaching with internal coaches, external coaches, training managers and coaches, spending money in the budget for coaching, and companies who didn't do that. What was the difference? The companies who invested in coaching had more engagement and more productivity. So that's important information, particularly for coaches that want to sell their services using this information. When you go and offer your services to a company, an organization, to say research is showing that organizations who are investing in internal coaching, in training managers as coaches, they have more productivity and more engagement. So that's important information. And this is the Sherpa study. The Sherpa study just came up, as I said, a couple of weeks ago. Many different pieces of information and trends. One interesting here is that you may not be able to read it. 75% of coaches got clients through referral sources, through colleagues and networks. Not necessarily the websites. Only 10% found clients through the website. The main source of referral for the coaching practices were the networks. That's the reason why it's so important that you are here. That's the reason why it's so important to invest in your social media. Because even though websites are not the place where people are going to be looking for a coach, social media, being in contact with your colleagues and people getting to know what your specialty, you can be in the mind of your colleagues when they get clients that they cannot see, or when they get opportunities. So I want to invite you to consider how effective are you at building your network. And being part of ICF Los Angeles and being part of the community is one of the ways that you build your network. Another piece of information was the average of hour for an executive coach. Any guesses how much you think would be the average for an executive coach per hour?
500.
400.
500, 400?
2,000.
That's good. Some executive packages, high-level executives can be around $20,000, $30,000 for a package to work with an executive for 6 months for the amount of hours that they decided to work. But that is at the high level of the organization. What they found is around $300. But it may not seem very high. I thought that it would be higher, but this is what they found in the research that they did. Compared to the research that ICF did 4 years ago, ICF found out that was $250. Now pay attention, because it's coming up a new ICF global research from ICF in a couple of months with all of the new information. So when that come up, pay attention to all of the new results. Something else that they say, the Sherpa study said that I share with you is that the increase of internal coaches that I said before is 60%. This is an important percentage. They were surprised about that. Also, this is a very interesting slide. Credibility. The credibility in 2006 grew. What does it mean, credibility? Companies, organizations see coaching as an appropriate strategy to develop their leaders. And that's important. In the past, most coaches were working between assisting in transitions, addressing a problem, or leadership development. Over the years, the focus on leadership development grew from 43% to 61%. And that's really important because coaching shouldn't be remedial. You know, when we're talking about addressing a problem, what we're talking is about solving problems. We don't want coaching to be about problem solving. We want coaching to be about leadership development. And we want our coaching to be part of the strategy of the company to develop their leaders so they can be prepared to be doing the best possible job. Now, I would like you to talk at your tables. And I would like to ask you, what are the trends that you have seen in your job? So let's spend 10 minutes at your table getting to know each other and talking about what have you seen in your job, in your work, with your colleagues. What trends have you seen? Let's spend 10 minutes and then we'll have a big conversation. What are the trends that you have seen? It's important the dialogue and the conversation and learning from each other. A couple of things that I heard in this table, so I'm going to share a little bit of what I heard here. One of the interesting distinctions is there a difference between, what is the difference between life coaching and executive coaching? When you're working with executives, when you're working in organizations, aren't you doing life coaching? There are different perspectives about that. My perspective is that's true. When you're working with a person, with an executive, if you're working and already working on the bean and you're working on their skills and their challenges, you cannot separate your personal life and your work life. So definitely what is going to make the difference? That's the difference between, I think that all executive coaching is life coaching. Not all life coaching may be executive coaching. Make sense? So I wouldn't separate in that way. So like sometimes that came up, one of the issues that came up as a conversation. The other issue that also came up was team building, team coaching instead of team building, as an opportunity to help teams to be more effective. Now what is the difference between team coaching and group coaching? Group coaching is coaching different people on their own issues, one-on-one in a group context, where the coach works on personal goals and support, and the group support everyone to accomplish their personal goals. In team coaching, the goal is the goal for the team, and the coach the whole team as an entity to get results. Can you get the difference? Yeah. So these two things are really increasing, and people are building skills to do the job. Now you need to have a lot of skills to do this. You not only coach skills, you also need to understand systems, you need to understand facilitation skills. I want to share with you a personal experience. As I shared with you, I have been studying with Fernando Flores for 2 years. And at the beginning it was challenging because he provoked me about coaching, about the place of coaching in the world. And finally I got it. And what he was saying is that coaching should be in some, he talks about coaches as ambassadors of possibilities. Ambassador and orchestrator of moods. And I do think that there is a lot of wisdom in the way that he understands coaching. And he was a teacher of my teacher. I studied with Julio Laya in Newfield. Any Newfield graduate here? Yeah, two of us. We studied with Julio Laya many years ago, and then Fernando was a teacher of Julio Laya and of many people who then opened other coaching programs. And one of the things that came up was that in my goal and my vision was through coaching to make a difference in the world one person at a time. Like I said, Damian, one person at a time, forget it. You need to work with systems at a time. And I said, he's right. And what can be our place in doing that? How we can think about working not just with one person, but the whole organization, the whole team, the whole organization. I have a colleague of mine who is also studying with Fernando Flores, Elena Espinal from Mexico, and she is coming to work in Mexico City with the educational system, with one school district. And she's going to get all of these teachers to go through coaching training so they can create an organization where they teach kids, and all of the teachers are all also coaches, and bring the coaching culture and the coach way of thinking about developing others and all of the coaching skills that we develop to the system. Can you imagine how these kids from these schools would benefit from that kind of relationship with their teachers? Now, what would happen if we work with systems and we start getting involved and engaged in projects where we work with units? I had the opportunity the last year to work at USC, and I have some USC graduates here, thank you for being here, to teach a coaching program and also to work with some of the managers from different parts of the organization to train them on coaching skills. And you can see when they share as managers, the whole unit, and this unit have around 1,500 people in the whole unit. The auxiliaries unit, they're okay with me sharing. So from the leader down, they all went through coaching training, not to become professional coaches, to be able to provide coaching to their employees. Some of them decided to go a step further, so they didn't go to the basic coaching training of 3-day coaching. They are going through a whole coaching program, and some of the graduates here, they know how much work it is to become a coach for many months just to become professional coaches too, if they want to. Some of them will not do it, some of them will. But you can see how this whole unit can make a big difference about how they provide services, all of the hotels, restaurants, in the whole university. Can you imagine the whole campus at USC?
Wow.
How that can make a difference. So I think that when you start seeing that systemic changes, is where we can make a difference. And I would like to see every one of you as coaches to think where you can get engaged to inspire people and to work with people to develop coaching skills so you can work with systems and start thinking about how you can build your practices, not only with clients one-on-one, but also building a practice where you work as a coach for a team, for a unit, for an organization, and in that way we can be more effective about bringing coaching to a higher level of consciousness. I don't know how do you define coaching, but for me coaching is about working with people. We have ICF definition, maximizing people's potential, definitely to maximize their potential. We work on their being. We want people to have the higher levels of awareness about how they are being and who they want to become. But what will happen if we develop that consciousness and that awareness about how our limiting beliefs or whatever is in our way to accomplish our goals at a higher level? And that's an invitation. When I was telling you at the beginning of the program, think about what is what you can do. And I want to challenge you, as Fernando challenged me, like, okay, what is what you can do? And I thought being a president of ICF was a big game. And now it's, well, maybe, and now I need to come up with another game, a bigger game. And I may engage you to do that. But the idea is how we can make a difference, how we can create high level of awareness to get more well-being, more peace, better relationships in the whole world. And it sounds a little bit, I don't know, idealistic, but I think this is what we do, don't we? We see the results with our clients. If you're an effective coach, you know that your clients have results. You know that as a result of the coaching, clients get more effective, they have higher level of results, have better relationships. So you see that, and if somebody transforms themselves, there is no way that their system don't transform with them. The question is, should we keep working one person at a time, or should we start looking at teams, organizations, and bigger systems? So that's for you to think what you can do to play this game. Now, what about the table? Anything that you share in the table that you want to share with about trends with everyone?
Oh, go ahead. She's taking. Hey, Sherry. You're up.
Yes. Okay, so we talked about how the USC campus is evolving because they're bringing more coaches to not just come to the class, but whole departments are sending their people in to get coaching. We talked about more executive directors wanting coaching. Normally they would say, come in and fix someone. Instead, they're coming in for coaching just so they can do better in life. Leadership development is having a companion piece of coaching. So instead of just having a leadership development program, coaching is a part of that, is another trend. Peer coaching, as you talked about. Positive psychology is an important trend in the, especially globally and in PhD programs, and also very strongly tied to well-being. Neuroscience research is also a big part of the coaching. Neuroplasticity is a part of the trends in coaching. Emotional intelligence support, and therapists partnering with coaches is also a trend.
Great. What you said, now there are more and more graduate programs that is coaching, master level, PhD level coaching programs starting all over the world. It's really exciting. Great question. And yeah, internal coaching is a trend and has some challenges. One of the key challenges is higher level executives don't feel comfortable talking to their coach about how they may lose their jobs, if they change things in the organization. So the idea is that internal coaches are not used by higher levels in the organization. Usually internal coaching is more for mid-level and lower-level supervisors. And high potentials, that's the other thing too. A lot of use of coaching, not only for managers, but also for high potentials. So the people who have opportunity to develop themselves have all of the coaching and support that they need to do the best possible job. So definitely confidentiality is a big problem with internal coaches. Other trend around internal coaches is the issue of supervision. How these coaches internally get supervision so they can do the most effective work. And this supervision issue is controversial. I got in trouble when I was in the board for opening my mouth and saying what I thought, because as a global leader of the organization, I need to represent the organization. But the board decided not to make coaching supervision mandatory. And I thought that was a good idea, because I think that many people need to find a space to reflect on their job. To make it not mandatory because it's mandatory, but just for coaches to be aware that to be effective, we all need to have a space where we go and reflect on our practice. Even I have been a coach for 20 years. I have an MCC, blah, 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 blah. I still need a coach supervisor, because we all have blind spots. And if we don't have a space to look at the blind spots, we are not going to be as effective. Now, if we don't think that we have a blind spot and we don't think that we need that, I don't think it's a problem. Make sense?
Yeah.
So I want to recommend here everyone to consider, if you are a coach and you have a practice, look for a supervisor, look for somebody who can reflect with you, who can make you think about what you are doing, so you can go and stretch yourself and go to the next level. It doesn't matter if I am in MCC, I still need to keep growing and learning and developing myself. So this whole trend about coaching supervision, I think it's important. Unfortunately, in the United States, it's behind because many times it's related to control. Nobody wants to be controlled. It's related to psychology, because many times the models from supervision are from the clinical psychological field. So this is what is against developing coaching supervision. But in the Europe, in the UK, Australia, coaching supervision is much more common and developed. And I do see it as a trend. You may not hear much now, but eventually you will start hearing more and more coaching supervision as something that coaches may benefit from and may invest. And what about having a coach? Many coaches don't invest in having their own coaches. If you don't want to have supervision, at least have a coach. How come I am going to refer you, a client, if you are a coach and you don't have your own coach, to work with your own effectiveness and your own issues? So I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand because I really have bad experiences all over the world. When I ask coaches who has a coach that is working with, not many people raise their hands. No, I had that question last year when I think I talked about that in one of the other meetings when I was here. I was talking about that. You know, that for me, that's getting a coach, getting supervision, working on yourself is a very important thing for the benefit not only of you, of the whole industry. Like sometimes you have to think not only about you and your practice, how you are part of a big community and how we all develop coaching forward together. Okay, about this table, anything that you share that any other trend we have not covered yet?
Oh, different levels of coaching, not just at the senior level, more mid-level, or like you were saying, high potentials or newer managers. And we definitely concurred on the less remedial coaching and more leadership. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, this is. Yeah.
Other stuff.
Anything in that table that we have not covered yet? Any trends? Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll ask, so I do run an internal coaching group for my company.
Could you please stand up?
Oh,
I just want to get you on.
So share something with us we cannot learn about internal coaching. By the way, ICF have communities of practice where people who are experts on different topics get together to talk about that. How many of you are familiar with ICF communities of practice? Okay, we are not. That's an opportunity for you to benefit from. The communities of practice are global groups that meet once a month to talk about different topics. One of the topics is internal coaching. You have diversity, you have many different, like 20 different groups to choose. Take advantage of that. It's okay.
Okay,
Tell us.
so with that, so how we began, so we started this internal coaching practice for my company. It's a large medical device company based in Boston. We have different tiers of coaching. So we do have 13 internal executive coaches who are targeted at those leaders that are vice president and up to senior vice president on the succession charts. If you're executive or C-level or executive committee, we go external for the reasons you talked about. It's that confidentiality. One thing I wanted to mention, we started actually as part of the leadership development program, and then we added the coaching as a component to the leadership development program. Got some good traction, and so it just kind of grew out of that. How we go after the confidentiality and creating a more credibility within the organization. So I sit in OD, but I'm working with HR business partners and managers who are line managers who are certified through ICF. Okay? And they cannot coach somebody within their organization. So if you're in R&D, you can coach sales and marketing, or if you're operations. So that's one of the things that it's one of our guide goals, so to get around that, because it is a big issue internally.
Thank you for sharing. That's great. Thank you. So the next part, when I want to talk about training managers as coaches. So there are two possibilities. One is that you are a coach working with a manager, and the manager needs to build coaching skills. So it's not about you to tell them what to do, but you may want to pay attention to some of the strategies. And you may be teaching coaching skills inside organizations. So many coaches do that. Anybody does that here? Teach coaching skills to, yeah, and that's another trend. So you may consider that how you can train managers, leaders in your organization on coaching skills. So you can create a culture in the organization that is more coach-like. So basically, in the coaching trainings, what I like to do is to work with people so they can work on their development. Start thinking about what do they need to do to go to the next level. So many times I like to do some 360 feedback or something that helps people and managers to create awareness. How we can create some higher level of awareness about where they are, where they want to be, and what are their blind spots. So many times we talk about feedback, and I think feedback is one of the key skills, the communication skill, but definitely work in coaching. How you can be effective. So I do many different exercises around feedback so people, managers can be more effective at providing feedback to their staff. And what we find is that most of the time managers can be somewhat effective in telling people what they do something wrong, but they're not effective about reinforcement and providing positive feedback. So when I ask most of the time Who here is happy about how effective you are about providing reinforcement and positive feedback? Raise your hand. Nobody raise their hands. This is not in the awareness many times of managers and leaders. So I think that we can, as trainers, in this case we're using our hat as trainers, facilitators, we can create awareness in managers to be more aware about how they miss opportunities to coach people, to find coaching moments, to provide effective feedback, reinforcement, and also we're talking about emotional intelligence, to consider what is emotional intelligence. And many people are very surprised about how low it is. And emotional intelligence, I use this book, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, we use it in our training programs. People they're self-evaluating themselves. It's not that somebody is self-evaluating, it's your own result. And I do believe that emotional intelligence is one of the issues that came up the most working in training managers with coaching skills. And also, it's one of the most common issues that came up as a coach working with executives. Dealing with their emotions, dealing with not only being self-aware, that's very interesting. Many people, ourselves, we can be very self-aware. We can maybe not ourselves, but then what we do with that is a different thing. You know, we know ourselves, but then being effective at managing ourselves. We can be empathic, but also how effective we are at building relationships and managing relationships. The 4 key elements of emotional intelligence. They do a lot of work with that as a coach and as a trainer. The other instrument I like to use is Strength Finder. And the Sherpa research also found out that the coaches, 70% of the coaches who participated, work with a strength approach. And a strength approach means we focus on what is working, not what is not working. So as a coach, as a trainer, let's look about what are the strengths and how we can leverage the strength instead of looking about what is not working. So that's an important approach with, as a coach, but also training managers with coaching skills. And the last part that I want to talk is about working on social change as new trends and what the ICF Foundation is doing. But before we do that, I would like to do another round at your tables. And I would like you to share briefly, like take 1 minute each, what is your reaction to what I have said in the last few minutes? What is your reaction about training managers, working with managers on these issues? What is your reaction about your place and changing systems and working as a coach in a system, with a system perspective? Anything that came up for you and relates to what you do. Let's take 10 minutes, 1 minute each at the table, and then we will reconvene. Okay, something that came up here, very interesting. Like, I don't know what you think about it. Maybe you can give me advice or coach me better. What happened when you train managers? And as you know, how many here are trainers other than coaches and trainers? You know, like research shows that there are not too many coaches who work only doing coaching. Most coaches will do something else. We do training, consulting, other activities. And I have been a leadership trainer for many, many years. And as you know, when you're training, from the people who are in the class, you don't know how many of the people there will implement and apply everything that you taught in the class. So you wish, you hope. You know. Sometimes I hope that people remember my stories. I will be happy to share that. They say people remember only 10% or 50% of what they heard in training. But what came up is that people who went through coaching training, then later they don't use the skill that they learned. So here is a key element, is that you're going to be doing any program, what you need is reinforcement. Now we need that. The problem is companies don't see it. Companies want to pay you to come and do magic in 2 days, and then that doesn't happen. Or many times, even the people who invest money, any managers or employees go to coaching or any trainings, they don't follow up. They don't have conversation with the people to find out what they learn and how they can apply their learnings. So the idea here is that if you're going to be doing any of these programs, it's very important that as part of the package, there is a follow-up package where you can keep in communication, keep in conversation. Whenever that doesn't happen, things go away. If you don't reinforce the learning, that goes away, particularly managers or people learning in companies different skills. So that was an interesting conversation that came up here. And the idea is that when we're creating a coaching culture in organizations, what we are doing is creating opportunities for people to think together and have conversations to create a future together instead of being told what to do. So that's one of the key elements. How do we create a coaching culture? We create that by valuing conversation for possibilities, valuing opportunities and spaces for people to look together and think together instead of being told. That's a different way of working and being in organizations. Anything in this table that you want to share? Any comments about your discussion, conversation? Yeah.
Well, we had a very interesting discussion. Stand up like this. We had a very interesting discussion that David was leading about generational gap between how people are coming up as millennials, where they changing, they just are staying around, and money is not a motivator for them. So how do companies challenge and keep employees there? And I love what you're saying. For me, I can see that and I do a lot of that in my profession, is that have a lot of conversation for possibilities, where we engage to think together rather than I show up as someone who teaches. So that's very good.
Well, when I was talking to Magda Mook is the executive director of ICF. And I asked her, how to do this ICF presentation, what are the trends, what do you see? And by the way, she's one of the most important resources around coaching in the world. We call her the queen of coaching because she knows everything that happens. She has been the executive director for 8 years now, and she has been all over.
Could you say her name again, please?
Her name is Magda Mook. And you can find her information in the website. And I asked Magda, what are the key trends that you see from your place, in your position? And she talked about internal and external coaching, group and team coaching, supervision for internal coaching, but interesting also, she talked about coaching younger generations. So we talk here about generations and different needs in generations, but it's interesting that younger people are interested in coaching. They see coaching as a possibility, they see coaching as something that can help them to accomplish whatever they want to accomplish. So you may consider that, how you want to tap into that community inside your organizations or where you work. So thank you for bringing this up, but it's definitely one of the trends.
Hey, Damian, I just have a question. On the other end of the spectrum, I've actually had people coming to me most recently trying to get the ageism on the other side of it, over 60.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do I do? Or they've left their executive and who's going to hire me? And that's another thing that I've been coaching some people on.
Well, it's interesting because there are two issues here. One issue is about career coaching, about what I want to do now differently in terms of working. But then what I love about coaching, because coaching is also philosophical. Coaching is not only about doing and getting results. Coaching is also about finding meaning. Would you agree about that?
Yes.
Finding new meanings. And as a result of finding these new meanings is that we produce different results, or higher results, or newer results, or more results. So many times, people in these generations, what are looking for is the possibility to find new meanings. Now that happened to me with many of my clients. Midlife crisis, many executives are very successful, but they're not happy.
Yeah.
So it's what do I need to look at, what I'm not seeing. The coaches who are there are our, for me, ideal clients. Not all clients are like that. We wish that our client will come to see us and say, okay, I need to find a meaning here, help me to look at reality from a different perspective. So like, as I shared before, in my family, everybody is a coach. I have a coach who I work with, but I also sometimes I call my brother, who is a coach and my best friend, and I said, I need you to ask me a question here. I'm not seeing something. Ask me questions so I can come and look at this from somewhere else or what I'm not seeing. And many times when we have clients who are willing to do that, who are in transition, and are willing to look at the meaning of their life and finding new meanings, and as a result of that, new actions, for me are my ideal clients. Or they're working there. A lot of people are not there. And that brings us to another very interesting issue. Is that I have been a coach for many years, and I use my intuition a lot. How many of you use your intuition? Now, your intuition is what you know that you know, but you don't know how you know it, but you know it. And I never have a theory to explain how do you do things with different people. Because not everybody could come to see you and in a different place. They're in different places. So we use our intuition to find out to what extent we are going to be challenging our clients or supporting them. Now, I found a model through my supervisor. Her name is Tatiana Bashkirova. Tatiana Bashkirova is from Russia, but she lives in London. She's very well known in Europe. And I have been working with her. She has a model of the developmental coaching. And there is a book, if you're curious, called the developmental coaching. And what she says is that we need to do different kind of coaching with different clients based off their development of their self. Not everybody's in the same place. So you cannot challenge a client who has not developed, who have an underdeveloped self. What you need to do is to support them. If you're working with somebody who have an overdeveloped self, you don't want to support them. You definitely want to challenge them.
Yeah.
But you have to be careful not to go too far to be kicked off. You know, like you. So the idea, I like this model, because the idea is that we need to find right where they are, and we do it intuitively, but this is a model, so I highly recommend if you're curious about that. And this is also related to that. The person can come as a younger, in the younger generation, or an older person looking for transition in their life, finding new meaning. Each person is unique. So we never know that person. It's the same thing when I teach coaching cultural competence and working on cultural skills, working with people from different cultures. Each person is unique. You know, I am Argentinian, but we're very different. We have Lelia here, who's a friend of mine from Argentina too. And not all Argentinians are the same. Or not all Latinos are the same. That's it. Anyways, you know what I mean. And the problem is when we are not aware of that, and that is in our way of coaching. We are not aware how cultural dimensions are playing in our coaching conversations. So the idea here is just to be present to our client, wherever they are at, but also do a little bit of research. Even though we don't need to be experts, if we're going to be working with millennials, we need to learn more trends, what they are at, what's important to them. We need to learn about what happened with different generations. We need to understand the industries of the client. Whenever we go to a new client in a different company, we need to learn about the company. We need to do our pre-work. Not to become experts, but to know the basics about the industry where our clients are working, so the questions that we ask are more effective. Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we need to move on to the last part of the session. What I would like to do is to talk about some of the trends also in coaching are related to social change, what we talked before. And I'm so happy to hear that the local chapter is going to have some activity where you're going to be coaching people that's really, really amazing. So I'm really glad to hear that. And how many of you are familiar with ICF Foundation? The ICF Foundation, anybody? Okay, so if you have not heard about the ICF Foundation, now you know about it. It's basically, it's not well, doesn't have a lot of marketing yet. But the idea is that we want to provide through the foundation, through donations, resources for people to provide coaching in different regions of the world, to help people to go through coaching training, find opportunities to provide resources where we can make a difference all over the world. So that's the vision of the Coaching Foundation. So every year, if you go to the ICF global website, in About to hide it somewhere, you will find ICF Foundation. And if you press, there is a video where some people got awards for the work that they have done socially all over the world. The two award recipients last year was North Carolina chapter and Washington DC chapter. And I would love ICF Los Angeles chapter to be ones. You had one. You had one. Do you know that? ICF LA chapter received one chapter award in the past. Very competitive. Well, who cares about that? We'll say. Don't care about these awards for a chapter who will make it different. But these two chapters, North Carolina and Washington DC, what they did is they got the local chapter and members to provide coaching to different organizations, basically not-for-profits, like you're doing here in this chapter now, with this activity. And they have amazing results. Just coaching going, getting involved in these not-for-profit organizations. For example, Washington DC is working with one that works with veterans, one not-for-profit that works with women and change, and another one that works with leaders in the community. So the idea is to provide free coaching to people from these organizations. And the idea is that through coaching they can make a difference in their communities. So I do believe that coaches should have a higher level of involvement and participation in these kind of activities. So I want people to be familiar with the foundation. And I also was doing some research, and I knew about what ICF Mexico is doing. So I talked to a person, I have an interview because I wanted to know about their program. Are you familiar with that?
I was a part of the program and executive director here in LA.
From the same organization?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody about Inroads? You're moving better than me. So tell everything about what Inroads.
The mission of Inroads is to develop and place talented minority students in business and industry and prepare them for corporate leadership. So we had internships. I was an accounting major, so I spent 4 summers working at Blue Cross in the accounting department. So I had a meaningful internship. And then I worked for Arthur Andersen when I graduated from college. So it changed my life tremendously.
That's awesome.
It's an amazing organization. And interestingly, this is what happened. They went to low-income youth, going through finishing school, and they wanted to help them to succeed. But the problem was they would do these internships. So the idea that they were effective in the internship that we hired. Many of the youth were not doing well. They did the internship, they were accepted, and then they didn't perform. And they realized that what was happening was they had these limiting beliefs that they didn't deserve to be working in these organizations because of where they were coming from. And that was against them. So what was interesting, and ICF Mexico chapter joined them. I don't know if what other part of the world is happening. Maybe you can help to make it happen somewhere else. What's interesting, what they found, what they did, is they worked with 85 processes in 3 years with 22 coaches. But the most interesting part was the 80% of the youth who were going through this program were higher compared to 50% who didn't receive coaching.
Wow.
So for people who are wonders what coaching can make, definitely can make a difference. You can see it here in this case, for example. So I wrote this and I was doing some research because I have been thinking what do I want to do next? What I want to get engaged. I started, after I left ICF Global Board for 6 years, that was almost like a full-time volunteer job. Found myself with a little bit space. I said, what do I do now? And I am very committed to making a difference, and I thought, what other ways to make a difference? And another way is doing this, just speaking. So I opened the first Latin American Speakers Association.
Wow.
With people from all Latin America with a vision to train people and develop skills so they can have successful business in being speakers to inspire people on different topics to produce world change. So we started 4 people in last October, and we have already 30 members. Slowly by slowly. That's exciting. It's a volunteer work, and it's also about inspiring people. I mean, it's inspiring. I think that when we inspire, we get inspired ourselves. And I have a group of a supervision group. I have been working with them for 2 years. We have a supervision group where we all are 8 MCCs, coaches with a lot of experience. And we supervise, coach each other. And after supervising and working together for 2 years, we used to be called the Immersion Group, because immersed. Now we have a different name. Now we call ourselves the Disobedient. We want to challenge the status quo, we want to challenge what's in the world that we think is not working. And we are working on this, we're still thinking about it. What we're calling the listening games. So pay attention, because you will listen about the listening games. And the listening games, we still don't know the rules. We're trying to figure out the rules. But the goal with the listening games is to bring higher levels of consciousness about how we listen to each other. So what will happen if we all listen to each other, and Anna, you were talking about the program at USC, that doesn't happen only at USC. All of us who are very experienced coaches, we still many times forget our listening skills. That is the basic skill as coaches. So what we can do to remember, to have that in our way, in our consciousness, so every conversation, we are focused, we are present, and we are really listening to ourselves and each other. So the idea is that we are going to come up with some projects, inviting people to participate in different ways. to bring higher level of awareness about how do we listen, not only in the coaching session, but all the time. Sounds challenging, isn't it?
Yes.
But isn't it fun? if we can all be better listeners, we can all have better relationships and be more effective. So it's about how to bring that to our life. So to wrap up, I want to ask you, what can you do based on everything you heard today, the conversation that you had? I want you to spend a couple of minutes and think, what is something you can do as a result of what happened tonight? Everything you heard, everything conversation you had, I want you to spend 1 minute and write down one thing that you can do. One thing that you think that you can do related to your job, to your life, one thing that can make a difference for you. What would that be? What I want to say is that it has been great being here tonight. I want to thank my friends, my colleagues, the students from the program, the community members. I do believe that coming to these meetings sometimes takes time. I don't know how many of you had to go through horrible traffic to get here. I don't know how many of you have to think twice or 3 times, do I really want to be in traffic to do this? But at the end of the day, there are a couple of advantages of being here. One is keep learning and growing and developing, but also it's about building a community. As coaches, our job maybe is lonely many times. And it's great to meet other people. And my experience is coaches are great. It doesn't matter where you go in the world, coaches are great. Because coaches are really people who really want to make a difference. So when you get involved and you participate, and by the way, I remember once my brother called me after 1 year of being a member and said, "Oh, I am a member of ICF and I am not getting any benefit." And I said, "You know what? You have to create a benefit yourself. You have to do it yourself. You have to go to these meetings and learn and take advantage of all of the learning opportunities. You can become involved in the projects like the coaching program that you're doing, or being a leader, being a volunteer. I started signing up people like you were there. I was new in the chapter and I said, what can I do to help? And they said, go to the door, sign up people, and you will meet everybody. And I will. Who knows? A few years later, I was the ICF president. I never thought that would happen. Anyways, so in terms of being involved, I want to invite you to consider getting engaged, getting involved. As we say, research shows that networks is what makes a difference. Network is what helps you to grow, develop, and also get relationships that can support in your business. So be wise about how you do that. And I am a resource for you. Unfortunately, the slides are not working, but if you want my card, I have some cards there where you can be in communication with me. If you're not connected yet in LinkedIn or Facebook, the Goldvarg Consulting Group, with a lot of information of resources, events, activities, interesting stuff that can be of benefit for your coaches. So I want to thank you for being here tonight.